Gordon Ramsay's show Kitchen Nightmares usually consists of the master chef himself.
Gordon Ramsay.
Here you'll see why places like Casa Roma, Fiesta Sunrise, and more on this list made it unbearable for him to keep down his lunch. Dillion's. In this episode, like in all episodes, Gordon begins with a tour of the kitchen. And like all other kitchens, this one is definitely nightmare-inducing.
You're destined for trouble.
Starting with the fly papers, usually meant to catch flies, and then meant to be thrown out, it seems like this eatery thought of the flies as guests as well, and so never changed the paper. Ugh, and that's just the beginning. An inspection of the basement leads to the most vomit-inducing sight we've ever seen, an infestation of thousands of cockroaches, all in sight right before the grand finale, rat droppings. The walk-in refrigerator was not much better, with rotten vegetables and moldy buckets of sauce everywhere. Honestly, we were surprised he stayed back for more, but you'll find out soon enough that it only goes downhill from here. By the time he had to taste the food, he was less than delighted. The vegetarian appetizer he ordered was suspiciously drenched in grease. The first sign. The second, it was lamb. A lamb drenched in fat as their vegetarian option.
Vegetarians? Ooh.
The main course that followed was also a huge fail. I mean, nothing gets better than vegetarian lamb, am I right? Wrong. The main course consisted of chicken so old that it had turned green, and burgers so moldy I want to throw up thinking about them. Bonus trivia? Around the same time, a customer complained about a rotten tomato that had just been served to them.
Something that is gonna make you gag.
Fiesta Sunrise. Now, the restaurant Fiesta Sunrise is definitely not something you should invest in visiting. And here's why. Besides the usual dirty kitchens, poor Gordon has to go through what seems like 7 circles of Hell's Kitchen. In this disgusting little kitchen, we are unfortunate enough to encounter the usual pot of old rice, rotting vegetables, and leaky bags of cheese and other such kitchen regulars. But wait! That's just the beginning! For this is the episode in which we witness utter shock alongside Ramsay when we see a server putting chips that have been on a customer's table back into the chip tray.
Not good.
We see wafts of a certain stench rise up from the fish as it sits in a leaky-looking suspicious puddle of fish water. The meat is moldy and soaking in blood and fungus, and the chicken. Oh god, the chicken. Green and slimy and gag-worthy. Exactly how we'd expect Gordon to react. The walk-in? Oh boy. Pre-cooked food sat frozen on the stands, rotting away slowly but surely, right next to a nest of cockroaches. They looked like they were comfy in their cozy little home of a walk-in. The food served wasn't the best, compared to a soiled baby diaper, but it was the cold cuts that got to our favorite chef, who couldn't hold it in at all. Oceana. Oh, this one's a good one. Like the name suggests, Oceana was primarily a seafood joint, and the thing about seafood is, it's gotta be fresh. Like, fresher than Subway fresh. Now, while most of this episode focused on some drama between the owners, good enough to make us want to barf, Gordon was having none of it.
No.
Getting to the good stuff. Milky crabs. Now, that sounds like it would be delicious, right? Coconut milk crab stew with some spicy and sweet garnish, and a little bit of lime. Well, hold on to your appetites, folks. These milky crabs were found in the warmer unit, stored at room temperature. The sour sauce is covered with a lid of mold and has gone rancid, along with shrimp, inexplicably there in the heater as well. All of this stinky seafood was too much for Chef Ramsay to handle, and on smelling this collective tainted and disgusting combination, he gives in and barfs into a nearby bin. Also moldy, by the way. The fridge was no better, despite being cooler. The crawfish are still alive and wiggling, like a sight from a horror film. The pasta is pre-cooked, cakey, and rubbery. Not how pasta's supposed to be.
Insipid, bland, and nothing what I asked for.
We end with telling you about how there were 3 dead mice in the mice trap, and how we never want to eat seafood again. Spanish Pavilion. Another seafood joint. The thing about Spanish Pavilion is that it's one of those cutesy, gimmicky places that lets you choose your own live lobster right out of the tank. Except, one of them is dead.
Come on, guys, seriously?
Imagine this one single solitary lobster stinking up the water, restaurant, and all its little lobster friends having to float around with it, waiting for their own stinking deaths.
Nightmare.
Not only that, this is super dangerous for the guests as well, as this dead lobster infects the live ones with bacteria for every minute it spends in the tank. This means that by the time Gordon was there, none of the lobsters were fit to eat. That's alright, there's the walk-in, right? Well, wrong. Nothing, and I mean nothing, is labeled or dated in there, yet it is stuffed with food. The freezer has chicken soaking in water as if it's been thawing but for weeks instead of hours. The final straw was the appearance of a pigeon in the kitchen. Something treated like it was normal or something.
I'm lost for
words.
Oh, Gordon was done the minute he saw the first dead lobster. You could see the anger seethe and his stomach churn within him the more he explored, and tried his best to control himself. Hannah and Mason's. If the relationship between the owners wasn't annoying and sickening in the first place, let's just say their customer service was below par. Gordon's first encounter with his restaurant is when a server walks past him with a plate garnished with what smells like, and definitely looks like, rotting lettuce on its way out to a paying customer. Like the rotting was still in the process, it wasn't fully done then. Obviously, that makes it edible enough to serve at a classy restaurant. Brilliant for your image, right?
Bon appetit.
A dish sent back to the kitchen right when Gordon was there is attached with a complaint of being old. Not a good first impression for sure. Right about then, with the inspection of some suspicious-looking leakage from the freezer, we get a full visual of old, gray, bubbling shrimp.
Bubbling.
The walk-in is no better, with us finding old, unmarked, and stinky bacon. And the last thing we see before we can't anymore is cooked and uncooked chicken stewing in what can only be bubbling old chicken water in the same tray.
I could kill someone. That's the bottom line.
The Secret Garden. Other than a disgusting amount of fried crispy onions topping every dish, Gordon was served greasy beef stuffed with greasy cheese covered in greasy deep-fried hair.
Greasy.
The word greasy seems like it was made to describe this experience. The ovens are caked with it, along with oil and some other black substance we were unable to look at because of how it violated our eyes, brain cells, and stomach.
That is disgusting.
The fridge was so old and moldy, the stink wasn't even from the rotten food and moldy prepackaged stuff, but the very container of all of this itself. Ready for the worst part? On further inspection, Gordon found live maggots in rotten, decaying produce. Together, as if he felt our disgust, we ran to the bathroom and threw up like friends at a party. Definitely not in the mood for more maggots in food.
You look very healthy for a man that's eating maggots.
McCool's. Other than its really cool name, there was nothing cool about this place. Not even the fridge. This seems to be a pattern, right? I mean, it has one job really, to stay cool.
Chill, relax your sack.
It was hard, I suppose, to maintain its one necessary function in order to not have been featured on a show called Kitchen Nightmares. After a less than brilliant shepherd's pie as his welcome meal, Gordon immediately walks into the kitchen to find a shelf there caked, and we mean caked, in grime. This very cakey shelf houses open cuts of meat in a shallow tray. Both the tray and the meat are green with a tinge of barf. The icing on the cake being its neighbor, a moldy can. Yes, that's right. Who knew cans could get moldy? Of canned, we repeat, canned artichokes.
Are you kidding me?
The walk-in is, as you should expect by now, filthy and filled with filthy foods. The chicken is a disgusting combo of cooked and uncooked, a mass of pre-cooked food that has gone bad, seen by the stench and the mold, as well as, wait for it, minced meat that was definitely expired. You know, the same minced meat that went into Gordon's shepherd's pie at lunch earlier.
You don't taste that.
Were you able to hold it in? Guess who wasn't? Grasshopper Also. You'd think that with a name like this one, this place would hop from satiated customer to satisfied customer, maybe? Well, you'd be wrong then. For a place named after something so lithe and flexible, you'd maybe expect it to emulate such accommodating and adjusting behavior as well, right? If so, you're more hopeful than us. Other than the standard good old green moldy chicken and rotting meat stewing in its own stinky blood and watery grave, we find that this evil, disgusting concoction has leaked into the mozzarella sticks.
I feel sick.
We're talking contamination and cross-contamination here, people. Speaking of evil, disgusting concoctions, we learned that that's what you call a combination of 3 different meat juices contaminating individual foods across shelves at an odd angle.
But I mean, that's cross-contamination. There, you've just absolutely poisoned half the neighborhood right there.
That's right, it wasn't just red meat, you guys. Cooked and uncooked in the same slimy tray, there's definitely a pattern here. Slimy chicken and moldy old salmon caked together in this stinky, gooey mess is what adorned this kitchen, right out of our worst nightmare.
It's grim.
Casa Roma. We knew that Casa Roma wasn't as inviting as it seemed from the moment Gordon was served what seemed like a deep-fried turd. This alleged sandwich, was deep-fried and dripping in fat, to a point where it was practically inedible.
How can you eat that?
The Monte Cristo definitely didn't live up to its name. We're pretty sure it isn't a deep-fried turd. You feel? The inspection leads to... gosh, this is the worst. It leads to trays of old foods, rotten vegetables, and sour, rancid meat soaking up its own blood and water. Aforementioned evil concoction.
It's a mess.
All occupying the same space. Not the same space as in the same area, but literally the same shelves. No thought has been put into the concept of the possibility of cross-contamination, which is slightly unnerving. The Parma ham is rock hard and moldy, putting me off of it for a very, very long time. The rack of ribs we see has been there for 3 straight months, with absolutely no dates on any of the packaging done by the restaurant. This was the last thing our chef was able to handle. He threw up in the bin. Why, you may ask? Well, that's because the bathrooms were vile, covered inch to inch in bodily fluids. Figure that out yourself, will ya?
I've got no idea.
Amy's Baking Company. Now, this is a personal favorite, and surprisingly, one of the cleanest kitchens we see on the show. Oh, then how'd it make the list? Well, just like going to church doesn't make you a good person, having a dirty kitchen doesn't make you a bad person. This was the first time we see Chef Ramsay appreciate someone's cooking. Well, baking. Amy, the owner, alongside her husband, proved to be more toxic, however, than any of the restaurants seen above. Their refusal to hear any constructive feedback, their taking away of their servers' tips, their cooking that, in their eyes, is the best they've ever seen or tasted, and Amy's husband's inability to operate the cash register with the order-taking software, and then taking it out on his young, stressed-out servers, make them the most evil concoction of the list. More than rancid meat juices and moldy cheese, which, by the way, they sent out to a paying customer on a day before the shooting.
Get your shit together. Yeah?
A covert meeting with an ex-employee who bears all, as well as news of most of their employees leaving after the shooting of the episode, leaves us thinking that sometimes humans can make us throw up too. The owners of Amy's Baking Company are definitive proof of that.
We're like snakes. You don't mess with a snake in the desert.
What do you guys think? Was it really all that bad? Do you have anything that tops this? Hit subscribe and stay tuned.